Shannon Stevens has sued her former employer, claiming she was fired because she is a woman.
Your Honor, permission to play excerpt number 25 from Mr. Roberts' deposition, lines 5 through 10.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
So John Patterson told you you had to reduce headcount in your group by 10% in a conversation that you and he had in January.
Yes. Mr. Roberts, you're aware that Ms. Stevens was fired in February, right?
Well, yes. But when I said that in my deposition, I was just guessing. I wasn't really sure when John and I had that conversation.
Mr. Roberts, were you given a copy of your deposition shortly after it was taken?
Yes.
And was that copy a word-for-word transcription of every question you were asked and every answer that you gave during your deposition?
Yes, but...
And weren't you given plenty of time to make any corrections that you deemed necessary in order to render that testimony accurate?
Yes.
And you, in fact, made some changes to some of your other answers, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
But you didn't change a word of that answer, did you?
No.
Let's take a look at what Pete did wrong and how his mistakes and the company's misfortunes could have been avoided if he had followed just a few simple rules for testifying at a deposition. Rule number 2, don't volunteer.
So what happened next?
Well, one day John Patterson came to me and said, we need to reduce the company's headcount, and you have got to cut your group by 10%.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. And so I took a look at each of the 10 managers in the group, who was handling which accounts, who was bringing in what revenue. That's how I made my decision that Shannon Stevens was the one who we had to let go.
When did that conversation occur?
You know, it's been a few years now, and I don't recall the date.
Mr. Roberts, is it your testimony that you can't remember when your boss came to you and told you you had to fire one of only 10 people you supervised?
Look, I'm 90% sure that John and I spoke in my office at some point in January, so I'm going to say January. I'm not saying that at all, and I remember the conversation clearly. I'm just not sure of the exact date. Having had a chance to think about it, I believe John and I had that conversation at some point in January.
Your job in your deposition is to take your time and to listen very carefully to each question and to answer only the question that you are asked. Let's see how a more careful and thoughtful witness would have handled the questions Pete Roberts was asked at his deposition.
Mr. Morgan, what is your position at Patterson, Baird & Company?
Vice President, Account Management.
What are your primary responsibilities?
I supervise the firm's account managers.
Was Shannon Stevens one of the account managers you supervised?
Yes.
Is Ms. Stevens still employed by Patterson Baird?
No.
Why not?
She was let go.
Dan Morgan is a careful and thoughtful witness. He's listening carefully to each question, and he's answering only that question. He's not having a conversation with the other side's lawyer, and he's not volunteering information. As a result, Dan is calm and in control of his deposition. By remembering and applying these rules during your deposition, you should avoid the mistakes that many witnesses make when giving testimony.